How would you advise someone to identify whether or not they have control issues, and what can they do about it?
Well, guaranteed, if you're we're all on the spectrum of control. Okay.
Did you push record?
Thank you so much for tuning into our second act with Paige and Silka.
For your second active life. Hey, Silka.
Hello, Paige. Paige, today we want to talk about something that, again, viewers have brought up as it concerns relationships, and that is being in a very controlling relationship, and the flip side, maybe not being able to give up control, and how that's sabotaging our relationships, especially as we age. Give us some insight on control and how that's affecting our life now.
Well, that's a really big thing on both sides, Silka. So see where we start first. So the first thing that comes up to me is control is all out of fear, fear of whatever your fears might be. So let's go to the flip side of, how controlling are you? Have you heard from your adult kids, your friends, your significant other that you have control issues, that you're overbearing? You have to know when things are going to be. You have to know every piece of information. You have to give your 20 cents versus your 2 cents about how it should be. Do you want to jump into every conversation and kind of run it? Oh, well, why don't we do this? Well, I think we need to do it this way, and this is how it needs to be done. You know, think about, are you doing these kind of things? If you are, what are you afraid of? And someone might say, well, I'm afraid of giving up control. Okay, that's a big umbrella. But underneath the giving up control, what are you really afraid of? Are you afraid that if you stepped back, will somebody else do something that you don't like? Do you feel like you won't be strong enough to step in and speak your truth or speak your voice about something? Do you feel like if you step back, that life will just be completely chaotic and you won't be able to know where things go? Have you ever not allowed things to happen? Because when we're controlling everything, we don't have the wherewithal to get connected to the natural cycle of life, the universe, the nature, and how things flow. And so we block potential things that come forward to us if we're always trying to control the outcome. So I'll just pause there because I said a bunch of stuff. So go ahead.
Well, and as usual, you have this big umbrella view. You're up there, you're looking down, and you encapsulated that so well. People may be listening, going, "Well, I'm not controlling. What? I don't think so." I look at it maybe from even a more practical view. Maybe, well, what do I do that is controlling, and that really is sabotaging, maybe driving people away? Something as simple as constantly offering advice that's unsolicited. Is that a form of control?
Sure, because if you're constantly giving advice that are unsolicited, you want that person to change, something to happen so it won't affect you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You're really trying to make things okay so you don't feel anxious, so you don't feel fearful. Because if you're not anxious or fearful, phew, then I don't have to deal with that kind of stuff, right? It's kind of like, if you think about it, what's coming to mind for me, and a lot of viewers know this, and you know this, my husband was sick for 8 years, very sick on and off, close to death multiple times. And it really took me a while to kind of step back because, there's certain things he needs to eat, there's certain ways he has to take care of himself. And I didn't want to have to go through all of that fear again and anxiety and having to take care of things. So it was big for me to kind of step back and go, you know what? I did everything I could. You learned everything you were supposed to learn. If you remember it and you want to integrate it, great. If you don't, I can't control what happens here, what you do or how you do it. All I can control is myself and my emotions about it, and really my life. Because if something were to happen because of what he doesn't do to take care of himself, I know, you know what? I'm not going to keep stepping in because that wasn't about me anymore. That was about him. So think about in your own life. That's just one, personal story that I have, but think about in your own life. Where do you kind of go, I don't want to be anxious or fearful anymore. So if I can fix this or do this, it won't happen. Think about where that kind of comes up for you and ask, why are you doing that? What are you fearful of? What are you nervous about?
Yeah. Well, and as you say that, in my past life, in my marriage, I was very controlling. I felt I had reasons, obviously, that was all wrong, and it's something that I worked on. And to me, the question of am I controlling or is somebody is easy, or obvious at this point. But that then I put myself back to where I was, and it's not so obvious. How would you advise someone to identify whether or not they have control issues, and what can they do about it?
Well, guaranteed, if we're all on the spectrum of control. Okay. Some of us we don't really care. We just la 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 go with things, and like a bomb could go off next to you and you don't do anything. So that's too far on the spectrum. Then there's some of us who are all the way to the other side of the spectrum, who are in everything and we're tight and we just have to get everything. So somewhere on that spectrum and on the line of your life, someone has said to you, God, you got control issues, or gosh, why are you always trying to control me or trying to control the situation? Someone has said it somewhere along the line. So pay attention to that. Also, you have to ask yourself, what are you fearful about in your life? And let's look at just relationships. Within your relationship, whether it's your adult kids, your grandkids, your colleagues, your significant other, what are you fearful about? Once you identify what you're fearful about, then look at, have I been doing anything control-wise to make sure that that doesn't happen? And you can ask yourself, what am I anxious about within these relationships? Once you identify that, have I been doing anything to control so I don't have to deal with sitting in that anxiety or speaking up about that anxiety or speaking up about that fear? And I'm just going to say one more thing and I'll pause again because I feel like I'm just talking. So many times too, when we're in these relationships, maybe a person has spoken up about their anxiety and fear, and the other significant other, colleague, adult child shuts them down or minimizes it. And then you start to just go within yourself, and the fear builds more. The anxiety feels more because you're like, I can't say anything else because I'm not being heard. They're minimizing it. They're pushing it to the side. And if they're doing it, here's what you need to say. Don't minimize my fear. Don't minimize my anxiety. And what's your fear and what's your anxiety about me bringing it up? So I'll pause again.
Well, again, reducing it down to some practical, everyday stuff, especially if we feel insecure in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I think as women too, and I guess men do this too. You tend to, here's an example: if you dress your partner, you offer advice like what to wear or not to wear. There's a fine line between giving, oh yeah, hey, that looks good, but actually, no, don't wear that going out, or and I've heard that can be one of two things. One, maybe you don't want them to look so good, so others will look at them. Ooh. Or you're embarrassed by them. Either is bad. Is that something that maybe hits home? Or just having or knowing your partner's schedule. And insisting on we're that sort of thing.
So when you say knowing your partner's schedule, do you mean like not trusting your partner?
Right.
Out of insecurities. And that can be a form of control too, because it goes back to what's the fear, what's the anxiety. It always comes back to what's your fear and what's your anxiety. So, like, you came up with some really good examples for our viewers. And there's 1,000 examples.
Right.
But it comes down to what are you fearful about? What are you anxious about? What are you not talking about?
Yeah. Well, and for the purposes of this segment, I think we wanted to bring up the whole control issue. Mm-hmm. Becoming more aware of whether or not, one, we are being controlled or whether we are controlling, because either way it's very sabotaging to our relationships, especially our romantic relationships. Paige, I'll let you finish up with your words of wisdom.
Yes, because that's what you do. So you want my last word, right?
Yes, please.
Okay. So the last word is this. Control hits all of us in our lives. You're not going to be perfect at it. That's just what it is. But ask yourself, are your control issues sabotaging your relationships? Meaning, are you feeling disconnected by the people in your life because of the actions that you're doing? And look underneath the control. What are you fearful about? What are you anxious about? What are you not able to speak about? And why are you not being heard about those things? So take some time to kind of, be with that a little bit to see, do I need to kind of take some time in that area and work on that area?
Yeah. And ultimately, either way, you're going to feel better about yourself. So we'll shut it down here, and we'll see you next time on Our Second Act with Paige and Silka.
For your second act of life. Bye-bye.
If you haven't already done so, please be sure to subscribe to our channel. The button is right over here. Just click on through to YouTube, and when you see that little bell right next to the subscribe button, hit that too, and you'll be notified every time we launch a new video. See you next time.